This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I'm sitting here with Chris Hancock, the Master of Wine, and we're at Paese Restaurant in Toronto. How are you today, sir?
I'm just fine, thank you. I'm really pleased to be here.
Excellent. Now, we met for the first time just over a year ago, or under a year ago, and it's lovely to have you back in Toronto.
Thank you so much. It's nice to be back here. Great weather. You know, we're doing very, very well.
So, if you don't mind, Chris, I'd love to ask you a little bit about your fascinating history in the wine world and how you came to be an honorary MW.
Sure. Yeah, where do you want to start this whole thing?
Wherever you wish.
Well, I started my career really in agriculture. I was going to be a farmer. But somewhere along the way I discovered wine, as we all do, and had a little love affair with wine and went back to school, became a winemaker. That's way back in the late 50s and early 60s, and I've just been doing it ever since. It's just been a wonderful life.
Now, the winemaking industry in the 50s and 60s in Australia was rather different to the one that one would find today, is it not?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. It was, in those days, it was primarily fortified wines, and it was just the start, the beginning of the table wine revolution, you could call it. And it's been just fantastic over the last almost 50 years to watch how consumption of table wine has grown and developed in line with people's interest and involvement in food. And today it's just a very, very different world, and a very much better world than it was then.
Now, at which wineries did you learn your craft, so to speak?
Well, I started as a junior winemaker at Penfolds, and I worked for Penfolds for about 12 years or so. And then I befriended a man called Bob Oatley, Robert Oatley, and he had a small winery, and he asked me to come over and join him in that, and that was called Rosemount Estate. And the small winery in 1975.
So it was a small winery at that point?
It was literally a small winery. We didn't have any money to speak of. Everything was done off the back of an envelope, and I think we sold 2,000 cases of wine in the first year. And over a 25-year period, it just grew and grew and grew. It was quite a phenomenon. The business was sold just at the turn of the century. And we went our separate ways for a few years, but I think we always intended to come back together again. And about 3.5 years ago, something like that, 2007, we got together, and now we have Robert Oatley Vineyards, and it's great fun. Let's see if we can make the souffle rise twice.
Now, can you explain a little bit about the principles, the philosophy behind Robert Oatley Vineyards?
Sure. We really wanted to make wines that were relevant to today's marketplace, to today's consumers. Is one of the critical things. I think it was one of the key points in Rosemount when we started that, but of course, in the 35 years or so since we started that, the world has moved on, and wine is different, and we could see that, and we're really now making and taking our version of what we believe today's wines should taste like. We've gotten very focused on this. We're selecting certain regions which we think produce in Australia, which we think produce the best quality of that particular variety, and we're focusing in those regions for the different varieties.
Now, where do you see the future of the Australian wine industry? Because it has been in a little bit of a decline as of late, but I've seen some exciting things happening down there that look as if there's going to be a bright future.
Well, I hope so. In many ways, I think the Australian wine industry has to reinvent itself. It just recently rode this wave of these heavy, syrupy, higher alcohol red wines, heavy tannins, very big wines, and they were fashionable for a period of time, but they're very much in decline now as people are moving on to more food-friendly wines. And I think this is the future for Australian wines. We have to explore more of the cooler climates, get more of these wines with bright natural acidity, freshness, clean focused varietal flavours in them, clever winemaking. I think the Australian industry is very capable of making that conversion. There's a lot of very talented young people down there, and we're starting to see some very, very smart wines come along in this new idiom. To us, wine is a great accompaniment to food. It always belongs there, and as people become more interested and involved in good food, as more interesting foods become available, then people are going to, I think, develop a greater interest in different wines and wine styles that are food friendly.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today in Toronto, Chris. We look forward to catching up with you again, hopefully not in the too far distant future, as I'm coming down to Australia for around 3 weeks next year.
Wonderful. I hope we see you down there.
Fantastic. Take care.
Okay.